the Security Coffeehouse. Hopefully we'll have our last panelist joining soon. And I'll just drop them a message. But we are running, as we did last time, with the excellent speakers from BeerCon2, all first-time speakers, all, I believe, first-time panelists. None of you have done panel shows before, I hope. Otherwise, this wouldn't be so exciting. And we'll kick off with some basic introductions. So let's go alphabetical. Ben, if you want to just introduce yourself first.
Okay, my name's Ben Ellis. I did the Tokyo Takedown, How 10 Seconds Can Change the World talk. Yeah.
Yep, my name's Dan, Dan Con. Basically, my talk was on how to OPSEC and social engineering as a way of life.
Hi, I'm Vix. I am a cybersecurity specialist, and my talk was on the lessons that I learned during my first year in cybersecurity.
Okay, thank you all. And we'll go backwards this time just to keep you on your toes, but I'm really curious. I did ask this last time. How did you end up, Vix, first speaking at BeerCon2? What actually dragged you into it?
Oh, well, I had watched a talk that Sean did at B-Sides Newcastle, I think, and that kind of gave me an idea of who the beer farmers were. So I'd kind of had seen some stuff on Twitter about it and had considered possibly submitting a CFP, but I wasn't sure. And then I landed up actually speaking to Nicholas, or Atomic Nikos, who was on the panel last week. And we just got chatting away, and then he suggested that I should try and submit a CFP and see how we get on. And then, yeah, he basically just kept nagging me until I did it. It was great. He really tried to support me in that, and we kind of both were working together on our submissions and stuff like that. So it was really good. So I had his support. And yeah, then I think Scott McGreedy actually ended up messaging me a couple of times to try and prod me as well. So if it hadn't been for them, I probably would have been too chicken to do it.
Thank you. And I hope I've got the pronunciation right. Carla? Is not on audio yet. Right, we'll carry on and come back there. Dan, you're up next in reverse alphabetical order.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it all started off with joining InfoSec Happy Hour at the beginning of lockdown. I think it might have been Dan Card who actually said, "This is a really cool thing, come and join." And yeah, I spent most of Friday nights kind of logged into that, and then learned about the beer farmers. I think I knew about the beer farmers beforehand from a couple of their talks last time at B-Sides and stuff. And yeah, BeerCon2 suddenly came up. I wasn't really sure because I don't really do cyber. I work as a dev in the day, so I wasn't really sure if I'd be qualified to speak or anything. But I think Scott McGrady said, "Oh, where's your CFP?" And I was like, "What do you mean? Where is it?" And mainly that was the final push. And yeah, just I think also there's a few other people, Lisa Forte in particular, said, "Look, push yourself, do things that you want." She's been very good at sharing that around with people. And yeah, so it felt like the right time after both those told me to.
And Ben.
So my story is slightly different than most people. So I originally was planning to do my talk at B-Sides London. As some of you may know, COVID got in the way and it got cancelled. So I'd been working on it for a few months by then with my mentor Stuart Colson, and I saw the beer farmers. I'd known them from Twitter for a while, and I saw it they come up, and I was like, "Oh, I'm really intrigued by that. Why don't I apply for it? I'm not, it's an opportunity. If they accept me, great. If they don't, that's fine. I'll just do another one." So I applied. Funny enough, actually, before I applied, I mentioned it to Stuart, and he knows some of the beer farmers, as some of them may know. And he actually just commented on the submission they had put up on Twitter, just saying, I put Ben forward without his consent. He should do this talk. And I was there like, that's fine. So we'd already discussed it. Let's just go for it. And it happened. So there we go.
We have been asked whether you're in or on your way to Japan yet.
So I knew I'd wait for this. So the answer is no, I'm not in Japan. But 2nd of December is my reserve day at the Japanese embassy. I'm going and getting my visa sorted out. And there might be some more exciting news coming up quite far in the future. But if anyone saw my tweet from this morning, you will know that there's definitely something on the horizon which is a little bit more than just an adventure.
I'm intrigued now, but before we carry on with that, other standard question I'd like to ask you all: how did you choose your? Oh, actually, right. Can I just check the pronunciation first? Is it Kola? Kola? Carla? Can you hear us? I'll take that as a no. Right. So how did you end up choosing the topic of your talk? So let's start with Dan.
Yeah, that was a tough one. To be honest, I thought of keeping something that was quite close to me, and I was a bit, I wouldn't do something as technical as quite the other talks, mainly because it was quite new to me. I'd freak out at getting something quite wrong. So choosing something that had actually happened kind of in my life, although quite some time ago, was quite good, because it didn't really matter too much about the details. Nobody's, I think Dave McKenzie was, when we read through, he was like, well, no one's going to be able to say that you walked 5 miles instead of 4, right? That's it's facts about your life more than actually anything particularly technical, but it was still quite an interesting story from an Oxet point of view, and that's kind of where it started.
Thank you. And Vix?
I wasn't sure what to talk about. So, as I said, Nikos was like, oh, you should submit something. And I was like, well, I don't know what to talk about. So I just landed up sort of verbally sort of just putting down some like mind map type idea to sort of thing, just a bunch of bullet points of like things that I could possibly talk about. And I think that at that point he suggested just kind of like wrapping it up in like one sort of talk and sort of dividing it into 3 parts. And I was like, oh, you know what, I could probably just do an overall sort of idea. And since I am still so new, I just thought, yeah, you know what, this is my first year, so maybe if I just wrap it up with the things that I'd learned, sounded like a good idea. And then I added a bunch of bird memes and bird gifs. So.
Everyone loves a good pun here and there, and bird jokes. Ben?
So the talk mainly came about because I'd been thinking about wanting to talk about my experiences in Japan. It was an interesting thing for me, and I didn't really know anyone who'd done it before. And it really started forming when I spoke to 2 friends of mine, someone called Sophia and Sarah from Bournemouth, who've graduated now. But after speaking to them, and they'd mentioned B-Sides London, and then by chance, Morgan, who's one of the 3rd individual in Set Queens, announced that she was going to do one for B-Sides London. So I was like, you know what, let's do it. And it ended up being to what it is now. So,
Thank you. Right. So obviously I know a bit about what the run-up to the actual event was for some of you, but Ben, we'll start off with you because I'll know if you're lying. How was the actual run-up to the event, the development of the talk? How did everything go? And right up until the day, how was it all?
Okay, so let's start from the very beginning, from B-Sides London. So the development took probably about 5 months, I think. And it was weird. I went up to about 13 versions of the talk. And I actually ended up using the 12th. But it was interesting because the content that was in the original first one compared to the 12th one, the difference is amazing. It first of all, flows much better. In terms of preparation, right, I pretty much was at every single trial run except for one. which I decided not to go to because I had other things to do. On the actual day, as you know, to be fair, before I got to the green room, I actually wasn't panicking. I was just like, let's go for it. Let's have a go. It'll be fine. And, but to show my nerves, me and my brother, we had the stream up just before it started. And as soon as the BeerCon intro came up, both of us turned around and went, are we on mic? And we're like, oh, no. It's fine. We're not. It's the start. So we went on, and then when I went into the green room, as you know, James, I was shaky as hell. I was panicking a little bit because I knew something was going to go wrong. And as some of you may know, something did go wrong. So to be fair, after about 5 seconds of everyone going, oh, something's wrong, I actually calmed down a bit and was like, oh, well, expected, chuckled a bit. Well, I chuckled for about 3 minutes whilst everyone else is going, go to this room, go to that room, bang, back. And then we know what the actual, I started it. It was too fast. I don't know if anyone heard, but my mum in the background at the very beginning went, you're going too fast. And I'm there going, God, I bet it. Shut up. But after that, if anyone did listen to it, and I hope you have, I do recommend it, and I hope you can listen to everyone else's, but I started slowing down, and it ended up being what it was in the end.
Thank you. And for those who don't know, Ben, you were the third speaker, I think, and you were the one who immediately broke screen sharing for everyone following you. Up until you, it had been working fine. I just want to make sure everyone knows that. Dan.
Yeah, I mean, so I think I like the idea, but of speaking, but I didn't actually have anything. And then I had to think for a few days, well, what could I have done? And that's where the idea of the OPSEC when I was DJing kind of fell in. And originally it was kind of a much longer talk. It was also talking about kind of people that had basically turned up at my house one time because my mobile number was on flyers and stuff like that. But even just the focus of just the first bit of kind of trying to avoid a lot of dodgy people and convince them that they didn't want me to work for them, without doing that's what the main basis of the talk was. And that actually took up, I think the first run was still 35 minutes. And I'm like, way too long. I had a lot of help with still go. Had a lot of help with from Cybersec Stu. He basically was like, oh, okay, you want a quote? Here's an updated quote for that. And yeah, sounds like a great idea. Had loads of help from Lisa Forte, who, because what we were talking about, I wanted to make sure she was okay with the Andy numbers part. So she read through a lot of the slides numerous times, so thank you so much for that. And then Dave McKenzie and yourself, James, went through it quite a few times on the run up, which was awesome. And yeah, managed to get it kind of 28 minutes. That was good.
Thank you. Vix, just before we start on you answering the question, just for all of you watching, whether you're in the Zoom room or on LinkedIn or YouTube or Periscope, and I'm not just waving my arm around mindlessly, there are actually screens there, you just can't see them. If you've got any questions to ask the panelists, just put them in the chat, the Q&A, in the threads, wherever you want to, and I can happily bombard them with any questions that you have. Given that, Vix.
Well, I actually feel quite bad because in the run-up to BeerCon2, I was really, really busy. So I couldn't really take advantage of the opportunity to have a dry run. So I landed up not practicing at all, and I was still working on my slides the morning of. So yeah, I didn't really get that much of a chance to practice. So I was a little bit disappointed in myself for not being able to do that, but I think it went okay. So yeah.
I saw it went fine. And while all of the mentors I know said practice, I have so far throughout my entire career practiced a talk once. So, there's different approaches you can do. I'm not saying it's the right approach. It is a different approach. Right. Okay. Fingers crossed. And they're letting off the fireworks again. Wonderful. Okay. Can I just check the pronunciation of your name first? Do you prefer just Carly, or is it Cowler? I hate to say this, but I can't actually hear anything.
So, am I audible now, James?
Yes, we can hear you. Right. Can I check the pronunciation first, just so I don't get it wrong, hopefully?
Okay, nah, that's Holla.
Holla.
Holla,
Right.
yes.
Right, thank you. Okay, thank you for joining. I know we had some technical difficulties, but I'm going to just throw all of the questions everyone else has had at you to let you catch up. So first of all, can you do a quick introduction about yourself?
I'm from Pakistan, Holla, working as an application security analyst in a financial institute. Currently enrolled in an information security master's program. Trying to make my way through because I come from a telecom background, right? Telecom engineering background. So just trying to switch my field and trying to make things work for me in information security. So recently I've been working on malware analysis and all the details related to it, trying to look into the depths of it. So yeah, that's the brief intro.
Thank you. And you've partly answered one of the questions, which was how did you get to the topic of your talk? But before that one we had, how did you end up speaking at BeerCon2? What's the story that got you there?
So basically working as an application security analyst here, I've been trying to analyze some softwares, trying to analyze them for malware. So that's what made me end up looking into malware analysis. And then that's how I ended up researching about it and ending up talking about it.
And the final thing, I know there were some difficulties on the day, but up until those, how was the whole experience of preparing? How did you feel going up to the talk? What would you suggest to anyone else doing the same thing?
Okay, the experience was really great because unlike any other talks or unlike any other conferences, there we had mentors. The mentors had us had a session before the conference, and we were guided for few basic things that we were all confused about. Then we had separate sessions with mentors. They gave us dedicated time, looked through our slides if there are any problems with that, or help us try run the talk as well so we can make things work out and be best at our best. So the experience was really great, unlike any other conference.
Thank you. Right, people keep on talking about the mentors. I'm not so interested in mentors, frankly. I mean, they're all great people and wonderful people, but we're going to have a session with them later at the end of this series anyway. I'm much more interested in all of you. So let's go alphabetical again. So starting from Ben, alphabetical by first name. What's next? You've done the talk. We've had a brief thing about possible plans with Japan. I know there's potential toilets in your future. I don't know what's happening with that, but what comes next? Are you going to be looking at other conferences? Are you going to be looking at other things? What are you up to?
So first thing first, get out to Japan. Second of all, definitely looking to do another talk. I've been told by quite a few people I should do another one, and they're going, let me get out to Japan first. Let me finish off that paperwork. Although to be fair, so let's just put it like this. I originally thought my NDA was going to finish in 2 years' time, so I was planning to do a talk then. The issue is that might not finish as such. So I might have to have a chat with my boss and see what I can do in terms of stuff I can talk about. In terms of the toilets, I have to see what happens with that. I am yet to hear back from the BT director about what happened when they followed up about toilets and hacking them. I wouldn't be surprised if somehow I hadn't gained access in the next year or so to a toilet. If I get any results, yeah, you will find out. I wouldn't be surprised if Twitter sees a very long video explaining how to break a toilet.
Thank you. I can think of one which I think everyone's going to hope breaks soon, but let's not go down politics. Dan, you're up next.
Yeah, I mean, I think I started this like not wanting to ever do a talk, and thanks to kind of everyone helping out, and also the speakers. Sorry, didn't even mention that. Speakers behind the scenes were also awesome, helping each other out and just like listening to each other's talks and just being really helpful. You know, I'm just really supportive. But from that, I'm up for doing loads more talks. And yeah, that's pretty much it at the moment. You know, I'm quite fortunate with. I'm still studying my masters at Edinburgh Napier, and that's still going to probably take up a lot of time. But yeah, if I can throw some talks in between, that'd be absolutely awesome.
Thank you. And Hala, there was a question about B-Sides Islamabad, which I'm assuming is coming up next from your response there. But what else is there?
James, can you repeat that? Because
Yep.
I couldn't hear it.
There was a question from the audience here about B-Sides Islamabad. So I think your answer to that is pretty clear. But what else is there? What are you up to next? What are you planning?
So yes, I'm planning to be part of B-Sides Islamabad 2021 if that's announced anytime soon. And for now, I'm trying to make this specific talk or this specific just go through more research or get my hands on done perfectly for giving a better talk on malware analysis. So that's the main focus, doing a furthermore research on this topic so that I can give something that is worth hearing.
I'm definitely looking forward to that one. I mean, what I saw of yours was great, and I need to catch up when the full one's online as well. Vix, are there more bird puns in your future, more pigeons, or are you moving on to other animals next?
Oh no, it'll always be birds with me. The bird gift life is strong. But in terms of what's next for me, similar to Dan, I need to finish my master's. So that's like a big looming cloud overhead. So that's like my main focus for the next wee while. And then hopefully I'll get to do more talks in future. It was surprisingly really exciting and I really enjoyed it. So I'd really like to do something like that again. But quite honestly, I'd love to just join Ben in Japan. I'd go hack some toilets with you.
Well, we've had a warning about bird gifs on Twitter, and it is gifs, not gifs, invading. We've also had a question on LinkedIn, which could be an interesting one for some of you. Sadly, Nikos isn't on this one, so he will have to skip answering it. But we've been asked, were you given a time limit? So I'm going to extend that a bit. You were given a time limit. We all know you were. How did you find keeping to that time limit, trying to put all of your content into it? Did you have to drop things? Did you have to trim it down? Did you have to accelerate or slow down? Or how did you handle it? And we will go in a random order this time. So if we start with Holla.
So basically, I had a few slides and then I had a demo. So I was very confused about this one thing, if I would be able to manage it within the time. So yes, I did struggle cutting out a few things in the demo and trying to fix everything into the time limit. So I do not miss the important parts, going with the basics and not missing the important parts that are really required for the audience to know first before setting up a box for malware analysis. So yeah, I did struggle with that, but I was able to manage that within the time limit. But oops, the
I've
technical issues.
Yeah, I've just got to correct something I said. Apparently, no one was given time limits. Everyone was asked how long they felt they needed. Conveniently, all of the talks happened to fall within a certain range of times, but they were not time limits. They were the requested lengths. Ben, if we go to you next. And you're on mute.
No, it's because my space bar is not working. So my answer to that is I asked for about 30 minutes because when I was actually, before I applied for BeerCon, I was doing practice runs virtually, recording myself and then sending it to my mentor. And I'd worked out it'd be about 22 minutes, 25 minutes. So when I sent the CTP in, I asked for about 25 minutes, but I said if that's not possible, 15 minutes. They gave me 30. Pick. Then during the dry runs, it was just seeing how long it would take, and most of the time, most people said it takes around about 25 minutes. So I was like, that's perfect. 5 minutes left over. Let's just run that by the day. On the actual day, didn't even time myself. I just completely went for it. Knowing after the mess of the start as such, I was just like, you know what, let's just do it. If I got cut off, I don't think I even saw Scott hold up anything. I just went for it and appeared to be in time. Don't know if I actually was. Someone needs to tell me.
For those wondering, the holding something up was the assistants, helpers, hindrances, whatever you want to call them, in the broadcast room were holding up signs saying, I think 10 minutes left, 5 minutes left, to give the speakers an idea of how long they had left. Vix, you're up next.
Yeah, so I just kind of asked for like 25 minutes because I thought that I could probably talk for that long. And then on the day, I think like I got like not even 10 minutes into my talk. And then for some reason, I think I looked at the time wrong and I was like, oh God, I've been talking way too long. I really need to speed through this. And then like forgot half of what I wanted to say and was like really rushing through it. And then I realized my mistake and tried to slow down again. So yeah, I think that's probably where I would have benefited from some practice, and probably just looking at the time correctly would have helped. But no, yeah. So I think I landed up being a little bit under the time, but we filled it with some questions, so it landed up being okay.
It certainly wasn't obvious that you weren't timing it perfectly, so no, it didn't come across, if that helps. Dan.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the CFP originally, I basically thought, 15 minutes, that's all I need. And, add a bit of time for questions to say, I think I asked for 22 minutes or something quite obtuse, but I thought that'd be plenty. And I think the first introduction, I kind of had that. I was like, okay, well, that's the first third and that's 10 minutes. That's fine. And as we got into the other 2/3, it got very worrying. I was like, oh my God, I'm going right to the limit. And I think the first time I did the way through, it was something like 29 minutes. And I was like, oh no. So I think over time I got it to 28, which was lucky enough that we had a couple of questions. I did panic kind of when I was doing my talk because I actually had Scott and Mike in the corner in hysterics for quite a lot of the talk. And I remember once just throwing, I just saw them and just threw my content. I was like, oh no, that you're waiting, just keep going. But it was great to actually have them do that because they were laughing in the right points. So that was lucky.
And we do now have a couple of specific questions. So from LinkedIn, Ben, given that you broke the technology so fundamentally, no, that's not actually the question, but in light of technical issues, which I know obviously two of you did encounter, how did that actually affect you both? How did you feel afterwards? I know it's an awful question in its way, but Arla, if we can start with you. Obviously your talk was going brilliantly and you really got bushwhacked by technical issues.
Okay, this is a very funny story. So I switched to my screen sharing mode, and I only had my screen displaying in front of me, and I couldn't see any of the. I couldn't see Scott. I couldn't see Mike. I couldn't see anything that's happening on Zoom, right? So I was going through my talk. I delivered all my demo, and then when I switched back to my Zoom link, I saw it disconnected long ago. I was like, whoa, what happened? So I went back to the broadcast room. I went back to the green room. There, Leonard told me that I disconnected long back. So they tried getting me in, but since I completed my demo for myself only, so my time was done. My 25 minutes were over. So we had obviously had queue. So the next speaker had to go up. So that's what happened. Then I had Scott telling me it's fine. I had Greg telling me it's fine, everybody. But the main point is, though I was feeling very awful, but everyone reached out to me, told me the part of the talk they were able to hear was good. They made me feel better. Everyone tried to reach me and made me feel better. So yeah, that counts. Everyone was very uplifting with that.
And I will say you did succeed in presenting a live demo. You might not have had an audience, but often live demos where things go wrong. So your demo worked. It was just the conference that broke. Ben, you faced technical difficulties as well, and you've done a brief overview of them, but just the same question to you.
To be fair, I think at first when I'd got in and I was there, I was like, oh, great, I've lost time. I need to speed up. And top that with adrenaline and nerves, you get what I had at the beginning and the fact that my mother then had to go slow down. But apart from that, actually, I think I'd got used to it. And one thing which I saw Nicholas mention, one of the dry runs, which I don't think James was there for, I was doing in the middle of my talk, my Wi-Fi cut off. And they remember it very well because I just kind of came back, connected, and went, right, let's carry on. And I got so used to it that I think after the initial adrenaline and nerves happened in the actual talk, it was back to normal. The only thing I was worried about was the GIFs working? Am I saying anything wrong? And has anyone fainted yet? Because there are some very scary things in that. I hope no one has. If you have, please contact me. I probably have to pay medical bills for that, but apart from that, no. I think they dealt with it very efficiently. I feel sorry for Sean because he was joining me going back and forth, and I felt like he was might have been a bit dizzy, but yeah, no, it went fine in the end.
Vix and Dan, obviously yours just went off without a hitch. None of the technical problems that Ben caused at all for you. But just starting with Vix, would you actually have? How do you think you would have felt about it if it had just cut off? Do you think you'd have carried on? I know that the run up to it can be nerve-wracking, but once you'd started, how were you feeling then?
I think I'm quite good at just winging it. So I think it would have been fine on the day. Just would have gotten on with it. I think once you actually start, it's a lot less scary than the run up to it. So once you're there, you just kind of deal with whatever comes.
And Dan?
Wow. I mean, actually doing the talk was, once you got into it, it was really cool, actually. There were points I thought I was going to throw up about 1 minute before, but actually once you got into it, it was pretty cool. But if I'd have had what Ben or Holler had, I would have probably been a wreck. So absolutely well done for both of you for going absolutely fine all the way through. You know, I don't think I've been able to do that.
Okay, we have got the mention that all of the crew were in fact panicking around the technical issues with Ben, whereas Ben just went completely zen and was relaxed about the whole thing. I know I was in the room at the time. He was calm. Everyone else was frantic. Right, we've got a few more questions coming in. So firstly, for Hala, your talk was a very practical walkthrough for getting started with malware analysis and malware dissection. And Vivian is looking forward to seeing the full thing. Would you consider releasing any of the technical resources, whether it's virtual appliances, binaries, configuration guides, anything like that, to go along with future talks?
As I said, I'm still working on the topic, right? I'm still doing my part of the research to make it more worthy, right? So yes, I do plan to release some of the things that might be useful, or probably a video as well, for people to reach out and see and have guidance or some documentation, but not in near future though, because I need to make it like some
You need
good
to be
stuff.
happy. Thank you. Right, another one. You're all obviously first-time speakers. This was the first conference you'd spoken at. Do you think that possibly, especially for virtual conferences, you need fixed time slots, or could you just say, we'll talk until we're done and then have a rest break? Could you be more casual about it? And if we start with Vix up in the top left there of my screen.
I think fixed time slots are good for sort of scheduling in the time for yourself, I suppose. I know that a lot of us were balancing like work commitments and stuff like that. So I think probably having a set time that you have to be there probably helps. In regards to like actually having an amount of time that you can talk for, I don't know if many of us stuck exactly to what we were meant to, so probably not that necessary. But yeah, having a starting time, a dedicated starting time probably helps for scheduling.
Thank you. And Dan?
Well, I think, I mean, I can talk the hindlings of a donkey, but whether any of that would be useful or not is debatable. So I think a time limit helps to focus. But let's start that again, shall we? Exactly why you need a time limit and practice. But that's basically it. You can talk forever, but it doesn't necessarily mean it'd be necessarily useful. So a time limit helps on that sense.
Ben?
I think needing a time limit, or just having a set, this is when you start and this is when you should finish, is quite good because of pretty much what everyone else has said already. But having that start is key, because if someone said, oh, you're going to be on in 10 minutes and then you're suddenly on in 3 minutes, that's not going to help your nerves. And if you've got a technical issue like I did, that's not going to go anywhere, and it's going to end up being 20 minutes. But so having a schedule of this, and I noticed one of the things that Scott mentioned, and I did notice there was like time schedules just a little bit in between each talk, which allows for technical issues, allows for overruns of time a little bit. And okay, I could talk on for hours about Japan, but I'd prefer to have slides and talking about how to destroy a toilet, how to ruin a taxi, how to ruin the metro and whatnot. As much as that's interesting, there were some very interesting other talks that were valuable to listen to, and I'd like slides. As much as listening to me talk might seem interesting to some people, my face isn't that nice. and I could go off script completely and then get into trouble with my NDA. So I'd prefer to know what I need to talk about before I actually start talking and go on for hours.
I'm just going to say you should maybe change the phrasing to hack a toilet rather than destroy a toilet. Hala.
So yeah, I have one more story here today about the BeerCon2. So since we all were in very different time zones, right? So I am in GMT +5, and the schedule was was according to GMT, right? So I calculated the time, and I was expecting the talk to be at 8 p.m. according to my time zone, but 5 minutes to 7 p.m. Gregor sent me a DM on Slack and says, "You're up in 5 minutes." Whoa! I was like, "Okay, is that not after an hour?" He was like, "No." He cross-checked my name and my topic and said, "No, I am afraid it's in 5 minutes. Oh, it's in 3 minutes." So I was like, okay, I'm getting into the green room. So then I got into the green room and I did my talk. So yes, considering that, I would really like to agree with all of what all everyone said, that having a specific time when you have to start and knowing your duration, how long you should be speaking, makes your talk. I guess it lets you bring the important things to the table rather talking about everything
Thank you. Right, and we've got another question, and let's go Dan first on this one. So has anything happened as a result of the talking? Have you had feedback from people outside the conference, people who weren't involved in the organising? I know everyone involved has been very supportive, but I am interested in external views as well. Has anything happened? Has it changed anything, whether that's internal feelings or stuff that's happening in your life?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly made me a lot more confident about talking in public. Definitely, it's something that I've tried to avoid a lot. And now I don't know whether it'd be the same if I was actually in person. I do, but I'm willing to try it out, and just see, which is something that I probably wouldn't have done until last month even. It's been really, everyone's been really supportive at work. There were a few people that watched it and they want me to do that talk in work now. Maybe not with the swearing, so tame that down a bit and focus on a few things. But no, it's been pretty well received. I've had some really good feedback from lots of places, and yeah, as well as all the support of all the speakers, it's been absolutely lovely.
Yeah, apparently 128 views of your talk on YouTube, just to help settle your nerves a bit. Ben.
So I'll build on Dan sort of in terms of in work. So my boss only hasn't watched it yet, but saw that I did the link this morning because I sent him an email recently, and I've got a feeling he'll want me to come back and do it again, and if not in Japanese, in Japan, which means I have to learn Japanese a lot more. But I wouldn't be surprised if some UK companies in Japan would be intrigued about me doing it to a Japanese audience, because from the UK's viewpoint and from the sort of the West, let's put it the West, it's an amazing thing as such. And I enjoy it, and that's why I did the talk. But I think seeing it from a Westerner's viewpoint will change a lot of the Japanese opinion. And I've had a lot of people, as I mentioned, go, "You need to do this talk again." And they're going, "I don't know when I can because of the situation with my visa. I could be out in Japan currently it's the end of December, but it could be sooner than that. It could be probably, let's say if I got my visa appointment next week, that means I'd be out by mid-December. It could be as soon as that. It's weird because I'm sitting here going, I could do a talk tomorrow or, in the next week and could be in Japan in 2 weeks' time. So I don't know what's going to happen in terms of other talks and what to do in terms of of feedback outside of the talk. I had a lot of woo, that was amazing. Woo, that was odd, in the sense of people found it odd that Japan's like that. And I had a chat with a friend actually who's from France. I'll shout out Lupin, for example, who's the chap. He was talking to me about it today, and in terms of France, it's very similar in the sense of the fence of no one takes security seriously, and I'm there going, that's not good news. We need to get that sorted out. Let's do Japan first with the technology, and then let's move to France. And I'm there going, actually, I'll just let Lupin do that. He knows what he's doing. So, yeah.
Thank you. And Vix?
Well, like the others have said, it's certainly helped me with my confidence. I feel like I'm much more confident at publicly speaking. So that's great. And I think that it's also really helped me engage with the community. And I've made so many good friends now that I can talk to about this sort of thing, which I didn't really have that much of before. Because I am actually, as much as I have a sort of front of confidence, I am actually quite shy. I struggle to sort of break into communities and places and actually make friends. So it's actually been really, really nice to, be a part of the community, speak to people, and everyone that was involved in BeerCon2, all of the speakers and mentors and hosts have all been so friendly, so supportive, and we've all been in touch since. So it's really nice.
Thank you. And finally on that one, Hala?
Okay, let me break this into 3 different parts. So coming up with what improvements I had after the talk. So yes, there's a sort of, I guess, self-doubt everybody has before their first talk, right? So yeah, that part really improved. I am a lot more confident about talking what I know, and I'm open to corrections as well. Then the second part, all the people I met through BeerCon2, all the people I connected because of BeerCon2, the mentors, the bear farmers, and all the co-speakers are very uplifting. And it really has become a very great community to interact with, or to ask for help, or to get along and know things better. Then coming to the part of Pakistan's information security community. So here we do not have much people speaking about information security or going to talks. So there are very good people who are presenting different topics in different international conferences, and they're doing a very great job. But there are not so many people, right? So I was actually recognized as being the only woman in this period of time speaking at a conference. So yeah, that obviously raised my profile in my local community as well. So yes, it's been a great thing to go ahead with, considering all these points.
Thank you. And there's now another question which I actually don't want to ask any of you. So Mike or Scott, if one of you can stick your hand up, I'll promote you and bring you on for it. So Scott will be joining us shortly, but this is a question I thought was fair to ask to a beer farmer rather than to ask to you guys. Scott, the question from LinkedIn is how much impact or influence do you think your presentation has had? And I don't think that's a fair one to throw at the speakers. So as someone involved in the conference, having an idea and seeing, because it has actually had a bit of an impact on the community and on how people are thinking about doing conferences, what's your thought on how much impact it's had?
It's a really, so the reason why we did we wanted to run BeerCon2 is because we heard through the grapevine from one particular conference, it may or may not be the conference that Ben was actually scheduled to speak at, that they were like, no one wants to sit on Zoom meetings, you know, day in, day out. And it's like, yeah, that's great for me, myself, yourself, James, any of the other mentors, any of the other beer farmers, because we speak for a living. That's most of us, it's part of our job. But for these people, they've lost an opportunity. So we thought, well, we'll throw something together and see what sticks. And then it just started growing arms and legs. And we didn't, I will be honest with you, we did not expect it to have this much of an impact with the speakers. The mentoring came out of nowhere. That wasn't even planned. That was just one of the other mentors going, I can run a session if you want. Then everybody just kind of stepped up and was awesome. I've been at big name conferences and I've seen nothing near the level of positivity, feedback. People are still doing write-ups. People are still tweeting about the damn thing. Folk are watching these videos and still tweeting us and saying, hey, that is awesome. So yeah, I think we built a bit of a beast, a bit of a monster. We didn't intend it to do that, but you know, all we wanted to do was give the rookies a chance, and I think we managed to do that.
I think they definitely seized it with both hands. I'm going to kick you back to the audience now. So thank you for hopping on. If I can figure out how. Oh, too many buttons. There we go. Right, Scott's gone. Right. Yeah, so where was I? We've had another question come in, and it's one which is actually quite a personal one for anyone answering it. And it's actually from one of the other speakers. Otherwise, I'd not ask it. But since it's from another speaker, I'm going to allow it. And let's start off with Vix. Imposter syndrome. It's something people talk about. It's something everyone hears about. There's a lot out there about it. Did you come across it? Did you overcome it? Did you suffer through it for the talk? How did it go?
Oh, absolutely. That's something that I've been fighting since my very first second in cybersecurity, and it's something that I'm still fighting to this day. I am always surprised when people give me good feedback about my talk. I'm surprised when people say that they've enjoyed it or learned something from it or that they were inspired by it, because I just don't see that, because I still see myself as very much an imposter. So absolutely, that's like me, 100%.
Thank you. And let's go with Ben.
So I actually didn't, and there's a reason for it. So I was taught, and I have to admit, I did have a little bit of it. I've always had it as such, because I'm quite young and I'm doing some of the stuff I have been doing and I will be doing in the future is stuff that I go and go, wow. But in terms of the talk and in terms of the conference, first of all, everyone's a rookie. I didn't care about what the experience was. It was the fact that they're here to do a talk. It's the first time. Let's go for it. And the other thing, and it's a rule that I was taught, which is if you're in a room, you have an imposter syndrome, remember, you're in that room for a reason. And if you aren't, it's because they've realized, whoops, that guy is experienced enough to be in here. He just shouldn't be due to regulations. That is my way of thinking about it. Is if you're allowed, if you're in a room with, I don't know, 100 CISOs, I know that's a very weird and unrealistic situation, but if you're in that room with them, it's because they chose and someone said, this person needs to be in this room. So that is the way I look at it most of the time. I still do have a little bit of it because some of the stuff I see coming out of what I'm going to be doing in the future, I look at and go, I shouldn't be doing that because of my age. But at the same time, I realize I've been chosen to do this. So let's just do it honor, because, you know, if someone of my age can do it, then anyone of my age and younger should be able to do it of a certain degree, because my knowledge is of a uni level. I'm not saying primary school student should be able to do what I do, but I'm saying someone who feels like they're not of the same experience. I get this from a lot of my fellow uni students. a lot of them say, you're more experienced, Ben. Can you help us with this? And I say, look, fine, I'll help you with it, but I want you to look at this. I want you to look at this. And I'll teach you what I know, but it doesn't mean I'm better. It just means I know something that you unfortunately haven't got to know yet. So let me help you with that. And that's why that's why I like the rookie talks, because it gave a chance for everyone in here to get to know what they're doing.
Thank you. Dan, I'm going to save you to last because you actually mentioned something right at the beginning that I think was relevant to this. So, Hollow, if you're okay to go next.
Sure. So yes. So when I got to know about BeerCon2, it was a rookie's track. So I obviously had that imposter syndrome. I prepared the talk and I was like, should I even submit the CFP or not? Should I not? So yes, I went through that phase when I registered for the BeerCon2. Then when I started preparing my slides and going through the demo and everything, I was like, is this worthy enough to be talked about? So that was the point. Yes, I felt that. But then we had this training or session by the mentors. They made us feel that whatever we are talking about is something that what we know, what others might not know. So it's always good to talk about what you know, and it will always be worthy to talk about what you know. So that one point really helped me getting over that thing.
Thank you. And Dan, right at the beginning, when you were introducing yourself, you said that you felt you were coming from a sort of developer landscape, hadn't really done much or spoken much about security. So I'm interested in your answer to this one.
Yeah, well, let's go back about 7 years when I started in tech even. I was kind of an older guy coming in, and a lot of the people were my bosses who were about 5 years younger than me. And so certainly, it's like, oh, what are you doing here, granddad? Might have got that a lot, almost the opposite to what Ben had. And so kind of from that, they had an imposter syndrome, and now it's almost I'm having the same thing in security, where although I'm studying for a degree in it, it's kind of wanting to prove myself and get a lot of get real world confidence in it is where I am at the moment. So coming to the talk, it was definitely a lot of imposter syndrome, but as Ben said, it was a lot of people that were highly supportive, and that allowed us to kind of focus on the talks and be a lot more confident with it.
Thank you. Right, we're coming up to 8 o'clock, so I'm going to just ask the last 3 questions that we've got, and then we'll take it offline. You can stick around after that if you want to talk to some of the audience in the Zoom room, our luxury studio, or you can just head off quietly so no one will notice. It's up to you. But last 3 questions, promise. From another one of the speakers, what did you do after your talk? I heard from more established speakers that a quick wind down chat can be nice. I know push-ups were involved before some talks. How did you all experience the come down afterwards? And let's go Dan first. We'll go anti-clockwise.
Yeah, I think I chatted to the beer farmers for a bit. Then we came out and then chatted to the roadies for a bit. And then I grabbed the nearest beer to me and just drank the lot very quickly, and then drank another one, and then calmed down and watched the rest of the talks. But that was it. It was quite, the adrenaline was definitely rushing that day.
And Hala?
So after I realized I did my talk and I didn't do my talk, I went through my house, took 2 rounds of the house very speedily, calmed myself down, and then I went through the Slack messages that helped calm myself down, and that's how I coped up with it.
And Ben?
So I originally had something to eat. I had not eaten. I'd eaten before the talk, but I had something to eat. First thing, had something to eat. Listened to a little bit of the Beer Farmers, but then muted it. I just wanted to see what would happen with my brain, and went through some of the things that had been sent by you, James, and by Stuart, and by what was on Slack, and went and answered some of them before going into a call with Stuart and him going, "You smashed it. That's it. Let's do the next one." And I'm there going, "Can you give me a break for like a year, maybe 2 years, 1,000,000,000 years? I've just need to calm down from this one." And I'll be honest, I fell asleep. I ended up lying on the bed because my foot, on the day, my foot had been buggered, and I ended up having to put it up and falling asleep, and then ended up catching the rest of the talks later on. So apologies for anyone I missed, but I ended up watching everyone's in the end. But yeah, I just fell asleep after the adrenaline.
Thank you. And Vix?
Yeah, similarly, I went for a nap. So just after, spoke to the Beer Farmers for a bit, and then I think I was just before lunchtime, so I just had like this convenient little like time slot to nap in. So I just went for a nap and then caught some more talks, and then it was InfoSec happy hour that night, so went to that and it was great.
For those who aren't aware, InfoSec Happy Hour is alternately incredibly relaxing and incredibly stressful. It depends which angle you're coming at it from. But it's a good place to vent, let's say. Right, we have another question, and I'm just going to throw this one out there and see what comes back. But it's been addressed to me as well, which is not really going to work because I didn't talk and I didn't do much more than sit in the green room and offer moral support and a few flippant remarks. So to the whole panel, did you go into the presentation, or do you plan in future to go into presentations with a backup plan if you have an interruption, or if you're left live and can't share slides or something like that? First one to answer is the first one to answer.
Well, I think a lot of the mentors did give us a lot of advice on what to do on that. They were like, you shouldn't get this on this talk, but you might get it at another one. And so I'm hopefully very prepared.
I'll go next then. To be fair, if it happened at this one, as you probably noticed, I probably would have flopped a little bit. What probably would have happened is I've just read, and you would have seen sitting there going, and you would have missed some of the pictures. But to be fair, the slides were a background; they weren't the actual talk. That's the key part. But in terms of if it was in person, hands down, I actually, without telling Stuart or anyone, actually, I'd have planned to have added props. I know that sounds weird, but some of the talk was based around a little bit more about using actual things from Japan and not demonstrating it, but just, 500 yen, actually have 500 yen in my hand at the time. So then during the talk, if, for some reason I can't use slides, you start, there is still something to watch instead of just closing your eyes and listening. If it happens virtually, go with it. My plan is always to have the talk as the actual talk, not the slides. The slides are just a backup as such.
Thank you. Who's next?
I think if I was stuck without my slides, I would probably have to start impersonating birds myself. So that would have gone quite amusingly for me. But no, yeah, I think it is at the front of my mind that I probably should have prepared more in the first instance. So I think next time I'll be more prepared in general, and hopefully having a backup will factor into that plan.
Go.
So backups, I am not so sure about backups because yes, since whatever happened at the talk, we are going to have a recorded session for that. So I guess that's the backup for me here.
It's a good backup, and it is a point that online, if you're doing an in-person talk and you can't present your slides, you can work around it a lot more easily than if you're doing an online talk and get cut off. So yeah, there is a point there that actually being able to redo it, record it, make it available is a very good backup, which does help with that. Right, final question, and this one's from me. I think it's probably inevitable that the beer farmers will be stuck doing a BeerCon2 Rise of the Rookies 2 or something at some point. So, given that, what would your advice be to the next batch of rookies doing a talk at one of these? And just 1 or 2 sentences each. Let's start with Vix.
I'm not sure. I think I would just tell them to go for it and to trust your instincts. There's obviously a lot of sort of back and forth in your own mind about what you can talk about or whether or not you're valuable, especially as a rookie. But I would just say go for it and just put yourself out there.
Thank you. And Dan? By the way, if you never hear from me again, it's because I didn't give the beer farmers any advance warning about proposing BeerCon2 and volunteering them for it, and they're angry and I've been kidnapped. Anyway, Dan.
Sorry, I think my connection went a bit funny.
No, that's neighbours and fireworks. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I mean the advice I would give would be go for it. If you feel that your talk has been done before by thousands of people, it hasn't, because only you can actually tell that the way that you are going to tell it. And so just get it in. What's the worst that could happen?
Thank you. And Hala?
Yes, exactly. What Dan said. What's the worst that can happen? It is always important to get over that point, because if you want to contribute back to the community, it is one of the ways to contribute back to the community by speaking about what you know and letting people know about what you have gathered, what you have researched about. So yes, I would definitely ask anybody who feels like they have collected enough material to be talked about or let people know about. So they should go for it.
Thank you. And Ben?
Right, I'm going to build on what everyone else has said because I agree with it. First of all, pick something that you want to talk about. Don't worry about pen testing. Don't worry about that. Pick whatever you want. I talked about Japan. Some people want to talk about pen testing, whatever. Second thing, as soon as you've got that idea in your head, find a mentor. There are some amazing people in this community. I cannot emphasize it enough. James's, for example, Zoe, Stuart. I'm not going to name all of them, am I? I can think of so many, but get a mentor and just send out call of papers. Go and answer them, because eventually someone will go, that sounds interesting, let's give them a chance. And that is your opportunity. And if you fail at it, it's fine. They're going to remember you're a rookie. They'll look into you and they'll say, oh, you're a rookie, that's fine. We want to give you a chance because you deserve it and the community should hear about this. That's what I'm going to say about it.
Thank you. I'm just going to make the point that not a single one of the rookies in any way failed. I have gone to more conferences than I ever care to remember, and I would put them quite happily in the top 10% of sessions that I've seen at conferences, and that's every single one. So there were no failures there. We are going to wrap this up now. I want to thank all of the speakers, because you are now speakers, by the way. You've done proper conference speaking. You can add it to your job title and do business cards and all sorts of things, and you can go out and do more talks, and you can talk about security, because people really need to talk about security a lot. Ben's just flagged up that failing isn't possible because you've gone out and done it. And to be honest, even if you can't bring yourself to do it on the day, that's still not failure, because you've got that far, and 99% of people won't. But I'm going to wrap up now, so we will be going off from the live stream,